second. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. This is Aisha Nasir, and I'm here with Dr. Mariam Chughtai for a session that, is really the need of the day, which is the single national curriculum, its execution, its implementation. And, it's a topic that at Stereomy, we've been discussing it for quite a while, but now it's really picked up impetus and everybody around the country is worried. People are worried about what it means for their children's future, what it means for O levels, what it means for the way certain subjects are taught in Pakistan. So Dr. Mariam is actually part of the advisory committee, would that be right? That's working on developing the curriculum. So she was a part of the curriculum development till grade 5, and she's also a part of the curriculum development which is currently taking place from grade 6 to grade 8. So when we were talking about how we will have her, we've had a lot of questions. So Mariam, I'll start with some of those and then we can, get to others. But is there anything you want to say at the beginning as you delve
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of controversy. Okay, so let me start with Mehek Fawad Khan's question that in the single national curriculum, why is there so much emphasis on the Urdu language? Islamiyat ko Urdu mein padhaya jaye, Pakistan studies ko Urdu mein. Her question is, why can't we choose the language that would be the medium of teaching?
Okay, so there is choice. You have to look at Pakistan as a full country, and the government has given provinces the choice. There's not just Urdu and English as languages. There are several languages that are spoken in large majority provinces across Pakistan. The provinces have the choice to teach in their regional languages or Urdu and in English. Now, the other choice you're talking about, choice within that choice, कि हम per subject भी decide करें कि हमें कौन से subject में पढ़ाना है. तो there is a misconception. For instance, अगर मैं आपसे उर्दू में बोल रही हूँ, this doesn't mean that I cannot also speak to you in English. English and Urdu are not day and night. If one is going on, the other cannot be going on. So if you want your kids to be learning in both English and Urdu, it's not a problem if half the subjects are taught in English and half are taught in Urdu. In fact, that is the best way to make sure that your kids are at least bilingual, if not multilingual. So choice hai, I mean, if you want to teach in regional languages, so that critique is a bit off. But I think it's a good thing that your kids can become bilingual going forward.
Okay. So we have a question from Saima Anwar on, again, the medium of instruction, jiska aapne jawab de diya, but also the books, which is like another huge worry. Ki ye books kaun publish kar raha hai? How do we know if they're quality? And she also wants to know, when will parents be able to see the books?
I want to say something at the outset, actually. I think that much to my disappointment, a lot of, not a lot, but a handful of elite private schools have not played a very positive role because they've really managed to create a lot of fear and chaos in parents. So many of my friends who are such hardworking parents, pandemic ki wajah se, they are further burdened. And then schools are sending out these notifications that are making parents feel as though, there is no clarity, there is total chaos, saying things like, we have sort of given up our hands, here's an email address, write to the government. And that I think is very unfair. So this question of ke books kab tak aayenge, in har cheez ka ek government notification schedule timetable issued hai. And this is following a process that has been there. The NOC seeking process has been there for a very long time. The government said that everybody who wants to submit a manuscript for a textbook, February 15th tak register kare. By April 15th, आप लोग अपनी manuscript भेजें. उसका हम review process और approval process करेंगे. Government ने पूरा साल जो academic year था, उसको March से August में ले गए to give more time. So, and model textbooks are already developed, which I think around April or so should be released. But I think इसमें कुछ elite private schools ने जो role play किया है, पेरेंट्स को ये इंप्रेशन देने में कि हमें तो पता ही नहीं है कि हम आपके बच्चों को अगले साल पढ़ाएंगे क्या. That's just so unfair. Just go to the internet. The curriculum is right there. Every parent, every mother can go and look at those outcomes and hold their school accountable. ये पढ़ाएंगे आप. जिस मर्जी किताब से पढ़ाएं, लेकिन ये पढ़ाएंगे.
Yeah. Okay, Ikra Taki ka question ye कि, you know, can you explain to us the execution and how will the government make sure that it's a uniform application? She's saying, are we allowed to see the curriculum before implementation? What about the students in early years playgroup? Her son goes to a school which is IB. How will this curriculum affect the IB? And her school has still not informed us regarding this. People from Faisalabad, Gujranwala, Mandi Bhavdin, is it going to be implemented at the same time across the country?
देखिए, अगर तो ये होता ना कि वो कह रहे होते कि अब से हर बच्चा ये पढ़ेगा और इसके अलावा कुछ नहीं पढ़ेगा. आपका सवाल बिल्कुल सही था कि क्या ये इम्प्लीमेंट अक्रॉस द कंट्री होगा, क्योंकि फैसलाबाद में जो बच्चा पढ़ रहा है, लाहौर में, कराची में, क्वेटा में, उनकी डिफरेंट नीड्स हैं. सिमिलरली जो बच्चा मदरसे में पढ़ रहा है, उसकी जो इलेक्टिव्स हैं, जो उसने कोर करिकुलम के अलावा पढ़ना है, उसने शायद अहादीस ज्यादा पढ़नी है, उसने हिफ्ज़ कुरान करना है, और जो बच्चा शायद किसी पब्लिक स्कूल में है वो कुछ और पढ़ना चाहिए, जो कोई प्राइवेट स्कूल में है तो वो शायद उसको साइंस की तरफ ज्यादा लेके जाना है, या आर्ट्स ड्रिवन स्कूल है. सो एक होता है कोर करिकुलम, दूसरा आपके ऑप्शनल सब्जेक्ट्स होते हैं. इस सिंगल नेशनल करिकुलम ने सिर्फ आपका कोर करिकुलम आइडेंटिफाई किया है, और कोर करिकुलम इज अ फॉर एनी गुड क्वालिटी प्राइवेट स्कूल is already something that your kids are learning, चाहे वो early years में है या 4th या 5th grade में है. तो yes, it is going to be implemented everywhere, but adjustment उनको करनी पड़ेगी जो कभी ना मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ा रहे थे, ना साइंस पढ़ा रहे थे, या बहुत पुअर क्वालिटी पढ़ा के बस बच्चों को पास किए जा रहे थे. उनको एडजस्टमेंट करनी पड़ेगी. तो आपको इसमें वो जो है ना कि दिस इज अ मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड, दिस इज अ फ्लोर, this is not a maximum. There's a ceiling above which you cannot rise. So I think it will be fine.
Okay. Another question that we have is about the Islamiyat language. This question is this question is by Mevish, and she's saying, can you please explain to us how does it make sense to be teaching Islamiyat in Urdu starting August this year, but then for the children to then in O levels be exempt in English in Islamiyat?
So देखें, अभी तक ये एक बहुत स्मॉल माइनॉरिटी है पाकिस्तान में ऑफ स्कूल्स जो कि इस्लामियात इंग्लिश में पढ़ाते हैं, एंड दिस इज ऑल्सो रीसेंट फिनोमेना. जो हम लोगों ने इस्लामियात पढ़ी थी, हमने उर्दू में पढ़ी थी. हमारे वक्त में जो उर्दू थी वो सिर्फ उर्दू सब्जेक्ट के तौर पे नहीं पढ़ाई जाती थी. उर्दू इस्लामियात का सब्जेक्ट भी उर्दू में पढ़ाया जाता था, जिसकी वजह से हम उर्दू के जुमले बनाते थे और उनको डिफरेंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट में पढ़ते थे, जिसकी वजह से हम उर्दू आज बोल सकते हैं. अब जो कुछ स्कूल्स ने उर्दू को एक सिर्फ सब्जेक्ट बना दिया है और उर्दू में उस सब्जेक्ट के अलावा किसी और सब्जेक्ट में वो पढ़ाया नहीं जा रहा, तो आप देख ही सकते हैं कि आपके बच्चों की उर्दू लैंग्वेज प्रोफिशिएंसी कितनी डिफरेंट है कंपेयर टू जो हमारी थी उनकी एज पे. ठीक है ना. आप यूं समझे कि आज हम फ्रेंच एज अ सब्जेक्ट पढ़ाना शुरू करते हैं, तो बच्चे फ्रेंच बस वो बेस लेवल रट्टे के तौर पे ही सीखेंगे ना. बट अगर आप उन्हें इस्लामियात भी फ्रेंच में पढ़ानी शुरू कर देंगे तो they will grab French a little bit better. Now, this thing about कि इस्लामियात उर्दू में क्यों पढ़ाई जा रही है, it is a two-pronged strategy. एक ये because the government wants all of our children to be at least bilingual, to be able to speak both Urdu and English. And kids in good schools will have those resources. आप अपने teachers को, अपने schools को accountable करें कि जी मेरा बच्चा तीसरी जमात में पहुंच गया और वो उर्दू में सही तरह बात नहीं कर सकता. Now put in extra hours to get my kid to be bilingual. The question of कि आगे जाके O levels में इस्लामियात का जब लैंग्वेज चेंज होगी तो क्या होगा. This is like this कि आज अगर मुझे कहें कि इस्लामियात का एग्जाम आप इंग्लिश में दें या उर्दू में दें, I am more comfortable कि मैं इंग्लिश में एक्सप्रेस कर सकूं. लेकिन अगर जरूरत पड़े, because I am bilingual, I can read, write, and speak both languages. I should be able to make the adjustment by the time I'm that age. So I think that if you think about it, that if your kids are bilingual, the adjustment should be reasonably doable.
Yeah. Okay. So Marish has a question, which is kind of everybody's worry, which is a fear that even educationists on our platform have expressed when they've come for live sessions. Does this mean the end of O and A levels in Pakistan? Will everybody in the future, not maybe this year, but should we be prepared for a world in Pakistan where everybody will give one exam, which will be following the single national curriculum? Or फिर Mavish का ही second part of the question is, can parents choose? We don't want our child to study the single national curriculum. We want them to study the American high school curriculum, for example, or we want them to study, I don't know, the IB curriculum. Can we opt out of the single national curriculum?
Okay, so the two questions. The first question was के O levels and A levels. आपको आपका स्कूल जो लेटर भी भेजता है, जिसमें जो भी क्लेम है, आप उन्हें कहें कि इसके साथ आप गवर्नमेंट का नोटिफिकेशन साथ अटैच करके दें. वो किसी बेसिस पे कह रहे हैं ना आपको. अगर वो आपको कहते हैं कि जी गवर्नमेंट ने कहा है कि अब आप रोबोटिक्स नहीं पढ़ा सकते या अब से एक ही किताब यूज होगी, कहें आप कह रहे हैं ना साथ में नोट. I kid you not, so many times there are claims being made to scare parents away, to create this sense of panic in parents, which is absolutely unjustified because uske saath ka koi notification nahi hai. There has been no policy whatsoever. Fifth grade mein kaun sa bachcha O level, A level deta hai? और अभी assessment की even primary grades पे कोई policy नहीं बनी. अभी सिर्फ और सिर्फ minimum standards बने हैं. अब अगर आप इसका पूछे कि क्या ये future में हो जाएगा, so I am not, neither am I a government representative or a policy maker. So I can't say कि future में ये government या कोई और government क्या policy बनाएगी. अगर वो कोई गलत policy बनाती है, I am an education expert. Being a third party, being an outsider, I can criticize it and I will. But from what I know so far, they do not have any plans of wrecking anything good that's going on. I believe that having good quality assessment systems in Pakistan are a good thing about the system. And I don't foresee it will happen. Maybe it will. Now, the second question you asked, can you opt out of the single national curriculum or not? देखिए, opt out आप उस चीज से करते हैं जो आप कहें कि for instance, let's say a kid in a public school, or maybe let's say in a madrasa, they say कि हमने इस्लामियात, मैथमेटिक्स और साइंस नहीं पढ़ानी, हमने इस्लामियात और मोर इस्लामियात पढ़ानी है. They cannot do that. ठीक है ना? Similarly, अगर आप एक लो कॉस्ट, एक हाई फी प्राइवेट स्कूल में है, आप कहते हैं हमने इंग्लिश, उर्दू, मैथ नहीं पढ़ानी, हमने सिर्फ इंग्लिश पढ़ानी है, you cannot do that. These are, and the common core concept is even in the US, 12 साल से अमेरिका में common core है. आप चाहे इमिग्रेंट हैं या जो भी हैं, हाई स्कूल में अमेरिका में आपको एक फॉरेन लैंग्वेज सीखनी पड़ती है. और फॉरेन लैंग्वेज वो नहीं होती जो आप जहां से उर्दू डाल लें या पंजाबी डाल लें. इट्स लाइक स्पेनिश और जापानीज. That's their requirement. Every person has to do it. So yes, this is a requirement, but luckily the minimum standards that have been imposed are reasonably good quality, and most of the people watching this webinar through this platform should be fine.
Okay, so this is an anonymous question, but a school owner has sent this question earlier when I posted, and he's saying, "Hi, Mariam, thank you for doing this. While I don't doubt your qualifications and your intentions at all, I do want to know that are there any penalties? Because as a school owner and an educationist myself, I do not believe that social studies should be taught in Urdu or can be better taught in Urdu or is even suitable to be taught in Urdu. I want to know that what if I refuse to teach social studies in Urdu till grade 5? Is there a penalty? Will my license be cancelled? Or as long as I'm covering the single national curriculum, can I choose to teach social studies or Pak studies, as they're now calling it, in Urdu?
They're not calling it Pak studies. Social studies is the name of the subject. आपने देखिए लैंग्वेज ऑफ द टेक्स्ट बुक डिसाइड हुई है, आपने क्लासरूम में उर्दू बोलनी है, इंग्लिश बोलनी है, जो भी बोलना है आप जो मर्जी बोलें। और गवर्नमेंट ने कहा है कि बच्चे को तीसरी जमात में फ्रैक्शंस आने चाहिए, आपने उर्दू में समझाना है या अंग्रेजी में समझाना है। आपका लाइसेंस गवर्नमेंट तो नहीं कैंसिल करेगी, बट आपको खुद सोचना चाहिए कि क्या आपको एजुकेशन में होना चाहिए, कि आप अगर बिलीव करते हैं कि मैथमेटिक्स की कोई जुबान होती है या साइंस की कोई जुबान होती है, ग्रेविटी इज ग्रेविटी, whether you speak it in German, talk about it in German, French, English or Japanese. So अगर आपका ये कहना कि सोशल स्टडीज जो है वो इंग्लिश में बेहतर पढ़ाई जा सकती है, लेकिन तो what does that mean? Does identity not remain identity when it is called शनाख्त? That is a very prejudiced way of looking at it. And I think that you really need to rethink about the prejudice we have developed, because some concepts can only be taught in a particular language, because that means that we are more married to the language than to the learning. You need to have your children educated in the concepts so they can reproduce those concepts in their thought. There is no language of thought. So I would actually defer. I don't think your license will be cancelled, but I think you should reconsider your assumptions about education.
Okay. Okay, we have a slightly long question by a mother. This is Rabia Awais. She's saying, excuse me for the long question, but the following are my concerns as a parent of two very young kids below 8 years. Regarding the updates that we are getting as the single national curriculum, I have these questions. It has been shared by some schools that from next academic year, 2021 to 2022, KG till grade 3 will switch to a module where social studies, general knowledge, and general science will be in Urdu. Good or bad, but for the kids of this age and time who are struggling through Urdu, will that be a good idea? Will it be easy for them to shift instantly and overnight? Will it not be more fair that they're given time for a gradual shifting and adjustment to a new module? Maybe you can move KG in the coming year, next year at grade 1, since the kids who were in grade KG will be in grade 1 by then. Secondly, my concern is that publishing houses and schools are concerned that the time window to acquire government NOC is super short. So even if the government is allowing, or do you want to answer the first question first? Or should I just read out the full thing?
नहीं, पहला वाला पहले कर लेते हैं. So उसमें भी 2-3 parts थे. There was the last part was the overnight shift. The first part was about whether. Sorry, can you repeat the first one? There was a long question.
About children who are currently struggling through the Urdu language,
Yes.
like the children of today who are struggling with Urdu. Is it a good idea कि आप उनको एकदम कहो shift?
What's the name of the person who asked?
Rabia Awais.
Okay, Rabia, I'm indebted to you for asking this question. I'm very happy that you asked this question, because leading research in bilingual learners or in education has said that kids who speak multiple languages in their younger years, unko thoda time lagta hai seekhne mein, but their brain development is better as adults. So जब आप यूरोप में जाते हैं तो या आप अमेरिका में होते हैं तो वहां पर क्योंकि there are lots of other demographics, for instance Hispanic immigrants in the US, जिनके लिए ये challenge bilingual learners का होता है. Nobody at their homes, at their houses speaks English. वो सारे Spanish speaking है, migrants हैं, और वो बच्चे जो हैं वो हाई स्कूल में जाते हैं, वहाँ सारी अंग्रेजी में बात हो रही तो उन्हें कुछ समझ नहीं आती, right? But because we have so much research on this topic, that younger kids can pick up multiple languages quicker and their brains develop even more complex. Which mother would not want कि उनका बच्चा is more intelligent? So yes, your kids are struggling with Urdu right now, but the way out of this is not to further get your child away from Urdu, but to give him the scaffolding or her the support कि वो bilingual बन सके. Or in fact, this is a disservice that the education sector has done by we live in a multilingual society by creating monolingual kids. मसला bilingual होने का उन societies में होता है जहां पर आसपास कोई और जुबान बोली ही ना जा रही हो. सारे लोग ही अंग्रेजी बोलते हैं, for instance. यहाँ पर तो बच्चे घर पे दोनों तीनों languages टीवी पे देखते हैं, यूट्यूब पे देखते हैं, तो आपके पास एक opportunity है. अगर आपका बच्चा struggle कर रहा है, understand that, but the way to address that is to support your kid in getting out of that struggle rather than removing your kid from the struggle altogether, because long term, this will help him better. Now, the second question कि इसके roll out को phase out करना चाहिए था, ये overnight नहीं होना चाहिए था. This is again a misperception that this is overnight. So let me explain. उन्होंने पहली से लेके 5वीं तक का मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड्स बना दिए, राइट? आपका बच्चा एक प्राइवेट स्कूल में पढ़ता है, ठीक है? आप पहली दफा वो उर्दू में पढ़ रहा है जनरल नॉलेज, राइट? उसको कुछ समझ नहीं आ रही. उर्दू वाज जस्ट अ सब्जेक्ट जिस वाज लीस्ट लाइक सब्जेक्ट जो वो उसमें कर रहा है, ठीक है? यू नो दैट, योर टीचर नोज दैट, योर स्कूल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर नोज दैट. आप टीचर से कहें कि मेरे बच्चे का इस साल में इम्तिहान जो होगा वो आपने वर्बल लेना है, या आपने उसका होमवर्क और असाइनमेंट्स की बेसिस पर लेना है, या आप एग्जाम जो है वो इंग्लिश में लेंगे. ये कंप्लीट अथॉरिटी आपके प्राइवेट स्कूल के पास है. असेसमेंट वो कैसे करें वो ये गवर्नमेंट ने मैंडेट नहीं किया, और ये हर प्राइवेट स्कूल डिसाइड करता है कि 3rd से 4th में पास फेल है, फर्स्ट है या लास्ट है या कुछ, और 4th से 5th में कौन पास हुआ है कौन फेल हुआ है. तो आप असेसमेंट सिस्टम को, एग्जामिनेशन सिस्टम को चेंज कर सकते हैं जब तक आपके बच्चे, क्योंकि 4-5 साल तो लगेंगे बच्चों को सीखने में, जब तक आपके बच्चे प्रोफिशिएंट नहीं हो जाते, it's completely fine to make that adjustment in assessments.
I had no idea. So schools can literally decide कि हमने verbally लेने हैं exams.
Absolutely. आपने concept check करना है ना, बच्चे को concept समझ आया कि नहीं. आप लगाए ना ये time बच्चों के साथ, because it's very easy to grade MCQs. It's very easy to grade रटा या material बच्चे ने किताब से, you know. Hold your schools accountable. Is my kid understanding the concepts which are on the government's website? You know, so this is actually a positive thing for parents.
Yeah. Okay, I want to ask you a question, and then I'll come back to Rabia's questions. So, Mariam, you're obviously an educationist with global exposure, which is why a lot of us have faith, and we keep trying to call you back to talk to us because you're from Harvard, you've studied the high school system in the United States. In your opinion, is this a good step, for the country and for us, and is this like something very anokha that Pakistan is doing, or is this the way that curriculums have developed all over the world? Like, should we be proud that our country is taking this step, or is this something just out of the box that they're doing?
I think it is a good step, but ये वक्त बताएगा. अभी देखें, गवर्नमेंट ने एक इरादा किया और एक करिकुलम बनाया. 1 साल इसको रोल आउट, 1 साल टीचर्स को पढ़ाने दें, पेरेंट्स को देखने दें. उसके बाद गवर्नमेंट को चाहिए कि एक पूरी ओपन एक्सरसाइज करे कि हर पेरेंट, टीचर, बच्चा, स्कूल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर किसी फॉर्म पर जाके किसी ना किसी तरीके से गवर्नमेंट को अपना फीडबैक दे. उसके बाद गवर्नमेंट इसको रिवाइज करे, रिवाइज करे, और प्राइमरी ग्रेड्स के लिए भी करे, सेकेंडरी के लिए भी करे, हाई स्कूल के लिए भी करे. तब जाके मैं कह सकूंगी कि ये अच्छा स्टेप. हाँ, इज इट अ स्टेप इन अ गुड डायरेक्शन? एब्सोल्युटली. मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड्स आर अ वर्ल्ड accepted concept. And there's nothing alien about it. In fact, it's just the same thing कि आपके constitution में अगर लिखा है article 25A कि every child has a right to education. Is that a good step? Yes, it is. It's just the same as saying every child has a right to an education, and in the education these are the things that they must know. So by that metric it is a good step, but we still have to see how committed all these governments that will keep coming stay to this matter.
So Rabia's second question was, publishing houses and schools are concerned that the time window to acquire the government NOC is way too small. And even if the government allows the private schools to use their preferred set of books, which meets the criteria of SNC, this is not official yet, the schools will be bound to use the books being printed and published by government textbooks, at least for the initial first academic year. No offense, but we all know that where our textbook stands as far as concept/content is concerned. I, as a parent, would love adapting local books and benefit our local publishers, but will it be wise to render that support to local publishers at the cost of our children's learning?
No, I agree. I think patriotism is very important, but it's about time we make quality a part of our patriotism as well. So I don't think we should, get rid of quality just because it's a more patriotic act. So I agree with that. But I don't think that this is what's going on. Yes, there is a limited amount of time for publishers to submit, manuscripts, और ये process चलता रहेगा, revisions का रहेगा and all that. बट ये इतना भी थोड़ा नहीं है जिस तरह के आपको मैंने जैसे बताया कि February 15 तक रजिस्टर करना है, April 15 तक करना है, आपका अगस्त में जाके सेशन स्टार्ट होना है और इतना कोई सब्सटेंशियल चेंज नहीं है। जब तक आपकी किताब पब्लिश नहीं होती, आपके पास मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं, आप कॉन्सेप्ट्स तो देख सकते हैं ना। एबीसी तो अभी भी पढ़ानी है ना, इसमें तो नहीं चेंज आया कि बच्चों को अब एबीसी, मतलब आप ऐसे प्रिटेंड कर रहे हैं कि हमें नहीं पता अब एबीसी पढ़ानी है कि कोई चाइनीज न्यूमेरिकल्स पढ़ानी है कि कोई लैटिन पढ़ानी है। वो तो गवर्नमेंट ने कितने अर्सा पहले से कर दिया। कम से कम आपके पास जो चले पिछले सालों की जो टेक्स्ट बुक्स है उसकी बेसिस पे आपको एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग तो है, अच्छा ये बातें हमने पढ़ानी, टेबल्स सिखाने हैं, सो इट्स नॉट के अब ये वाली बात कि जो टेक्स्ट बुक्स को एनओसी मिलेगा तो क्या वो टेक्स्ट बुक्स किस क्वालिटी की होंगी। अब यस, एनओसी टेक्स्ट बुक्स को लेना है, लेकिन लेट मी टेल यू समथिंग, एनओसी टेक्स्ट बुक्स को हमेशा लेना होता था। It is just being portrayed as some new thing that is happening, that wasn't happening before. It is being implemented better. आप बगैर एनओसी के, आप मुझे बताएं, हम लोग जिन स्कूल्स में आज से कितने साल पहले के पढ़े थे, there are certain things that we could not be taught in school. I went to a private missionary school where I was taught by nuns.
Yeah,
and I was taught a very select history based on just a couple of religious events and incorrect history. तो एनओसी से इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ता, गवर्नमेंट ने जो कंट्रोल करना होता है या जो अलाउ करना होता है वो कर लेती है। बट I do think that some good quality textbooks will get an NOC. I really recommend that parents wait a little bit. Let the textbooks come. You will not like everything. It's impossible to like everything that's been created by human beings. But then push back on the process and say, we want these revisions. Be a part of the change, and don't be a part of the panic that is being created.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, so another question is, it's been said that the government is attempting to design a standardized examination system for every level to gauge the effectiveness of the single national curriculum. News is, maybe this is a rumor, that this task has been assigned to Aga Khan University under some contract. While we still struggle with flawless running of the matriculation and intermediate examination system every single year, how will a centralized exam work flawlessly for the junior levels? Isn't that yet more added pressure for students who are extremely young, irrespective of the fact whether they're enrolled in public or private sector?
So absolutely, that would be ridiculous for a government to try to test 20 million kids who are in schools. Yeah. Every first grade ka imtihan se, how is going to grade all these papers? I think just that, that's borderline ridiculous for whoever is trying to push that rumor. In fact, don't take my word for it. Punjab Examination Commission ने जो 5th का एग्जाम होता था, क्योंकि हमारे जो हाई फी प्राइवेट स्कूल्स हैं उसमें 4th का एग्जाम और 5th का और 6th के एग्जाम में कोई फर्क नहीं होता, वो स्कूल लेवल पर होता है, स्कूल डिसाइड करता है। पब्लिक स्कूल्स में होता है कि 5 जमातें पास या 8वीं पास, 5th में 8th में मैट्रिक और फिर FA, these are high stakes exams. But Punjab Examination Commission has ended the 5th exam because they thought it is just adding more pressure on the kids. And this happened last year in like March. So I think ये जो बात है कि the government is planning on testing every छोटा सा बच्चा in any kind of school at every level, it's not even possible, and I don't think it's happening anyway. Now the question of कि Aga Khan University is designing something. Aga Khan University Institute of Education Development has a 30-year track record of research and practice and policy work. They have some very good faculty. The federal government took out an ad asking for university partners to help them in this exercise. And Aga Khan University applied and they won that bid. So it's a very good thing that leading PhDs in education PhDs in assessment and how exams should be developed are advising the government. और assessment जो Aga Khan का examination board है, Aga Khan examination board is a very good board. So if they are going to design an assessment system, I think it will be a good one. Now, will it be for the entire country? Will it be at the 10th grade level, 8th grade level, 12th grade level? We don't know yet. I think a lot of that will be worked out over several years. I don't think it can be just done and wished into implementation. But I do know that the people who are working on it, if I had to pick from like all the list of people in Pakistan, I would pick Aga Khan University Examination Board.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a top-notch board to be working on the system. Okay, so we have another interesting question from Mariam Nasir. So a lot of children in Pakistan, well, maybe not a lot, like that's an estimation. There are children in Pakistan with dual nationalities, right? So what about those kids is Mariam's questions. Will children who don't hold Pakistani passports yet study in Pakistan, will the single national curriculum apply to them too? So I think maybe her question is, how at one time children with foreign passports could take the easy Urdu exam and children with Pakistani couldn't. So will that be also, how will, so this is her question. What about kids with dual or other nationalities? Why can't parents have options to choose the medium of education? How will the children cope with Urdu? And then what about international exams? SNC would be great if they only work on government schools to improve their standards. Why this rush to make government and private schools come together? Why could the entire movement not have been to improve the madrasas and improve the government schools? Why are private schools a part of it?
Okay, so there were two questions here. On the dual nationalities. Now let's assume that this kid has, अगर एक पाकिस्तानी passport है और एक कहीं और का passport है, right? So let's say कि वो पाकिस्तान नहीं, वो फ्रांस चला गया है, right? या जर्मनी का passport है. The kid is both German and Pakistani. जब वो जर्मनी जाते हैं, तो क्या वो उनको कहते हैं कि जी हमारा बच्चा जो है वो तो उर्दू बोलता आया है, हमें तो जर्मनी आके जर्मन नहीं सीखनी, क्योंकि जर्मन के इम्तिहान में हमारा बच्चा तो फेल हो जाएगा? हाँ, आप ये बात कर सकते हैं टीचर से कि जी हम तो अभी आए हैं, ना हम जर्मन बोलते हैं, ना हम घर पे बोलते हैं, हम खुद सीख रहे हैं, तो आप हमारे बच्चे का जब इम्तिहान लेंगे ना, तो आप उसके लिए उसकी इम्प्रूवमेंट देखें कि उसने मेहनत कितनी की. उसने 1 साल में जर्मन पिक अप करने में 1 ग्रेड लेवल से ज्यादा का कर लिया, चाहे वो फर्स्ट ग्रेड लेवल का था, लेकिन उसने उसको कैच अप किया. एंड द टीचर शुड बी एबल टू एक्नॉलेज दैट. वो एफर्ट की बेसिस पे उसको पास करे. ठीक है ना? वही वाली बात कि गवर्नमेंट ने कोई ये नहीं कहा कि आप किसी ऐसे बच्चे को पास नहीं करेंगे जो ये कंटेंट उसको आता नहीं होगा. उन्होंने कहा है कि this is the minimum standard that every school must aspire and seriously try to get every child to learn. So that I think is again that argument that we have a bias against being bilingual when it is an Urdu English thing, but not when it is a foreign language. And it doesn't matter. If you grow up bilingual, you can pick up a foreign language much faster as an adult. And there is research to support this. So your kids will learn multiple European languages as well. And the way to do that is to have your kid learn multiple languages as a child. Now, the second question about कि अगर public schools को improve करना था तो उनको improve करते, मदरसों को improve करते, private sector को क्यों नीचे लेकर आ रहे हैं या उनको क्यों छेड़ रहे हैं? तो देखें, जो अगर आप सिंगल नेशनल करिकुलम के डॉक्यूमेंट्स खोल के देखें और अपने स्कूल का करिकुलम देखें, तो आपके स्कूल के करिकुलम में और उनके स्कूल के करिकुलम, उनके एसएनसी के लर्निंग आउटकम्स में बहुत मार्जिनल फर्क होगा. तो आपको एडजस्टमेंट नहीं करनी है. अगर आपका बच्चा एक अच्छे स्कूल में पढ़ता है तो आपकी बात बिल्कुल ठीक है कि प्राइवेट स्कूल्स को नहीं टच कर रहा. ये एक इंप्रेशन दिया जा रहा है. इट इज अ वेरी कन्वीनियंट नैरेटिव. मसला उस बच्चे को होगा जो 8वीं जमात तक पहुंच गया, आज तक उसने कभी इंग्लिश का सब्जेक्ट नहीं पढ़ा, आज तक उसने कभी मैथमेटिक्स का एग्जाम नहीं दिया. मसला उस बच्चे को होगा जो पब्लिक स्कूल में पढ़ता था ना, उसकी टीचर अंग्रेजी बोलती थी, बच्चा घर पे बलोची बोलता है, टीचर जो है उर्दू में पढ़ा रही है और किताब अंग्रेजी में है, मसला उस बच्चे को होगा और उसको टाइम लगेगा, तो आपकी बात बिल्कुल ठीक है, इसका फोकस उस पर ही जाएगा जिसको सबसे ज्यादा राइज करना है। जो ऑलरेडी अच्छा पढ़ रहा है उसको इसमें प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी।
Okay, makes sense. So we have a question from Sohail who's saying, Dr. Maria, my question is that couldn't the timing have been a little better? This seems to be the worst possible time for our children as far as learning is concerned. They wasted an entire academic year in Pakistan because schools were closed for the maximum duration in Pakistan compared to any other country. So thanks to Corona, 1 year gone. Now, thanks to the SNC and all these experimentations and adjustments, another year gone. As an educationist, do you not feel that this is unfair for the children who are currently in their formative year?
I'm very happy you asked this question. Let me explain the difference between education and healthcare. आपने बात की कि the pandemic is going on, which is a healthcare issue, और बीच में ये education का भी एक experiment चल रहा है, right? So healthcare में जो crisis आता है ना, this is not like the coronavirus कि आपको vaccine लगेगी and you're set, you're done, you know? या आपको कोई problem आई है, आपने surgery करा ली and you're done, right? या आपका बच्चा पैदा हुआ, उसकी आपने vaccinations करा ली and you're done. Education में एक 10-15 साल लगते हैं for an effect to come about, right? And by the same logic, health की emergency urgent feel होती है, एजुकेशन की इमरजेंसी बहुत रेयरली अर्जेंट फील होती है, लेकिन वो इम्पोर्टेंट उतनी ही होती है, क्योंकि जब तक आप रियलाइज करते हैं कि आपका बच्चा पीछे रह गया है, तो बच्चा बड़ा हो चुका होता है, वो वक्त गुजर गया होता है। पेंडेमिक से पहले ही हमारी एजुकेशन का एक पेंडेमिक चल रहा है। वी आर grossly disappointing the level of education we need to be providing. We are grossly disappointing our younger generation on that. So there is not a better time to stop your house from burning down. Some people look at the house is burning down because of health, but I would say that the house was burning down because of the education crisis. And I think it is a good thing that in spite of the pandemic, that we have been able to say, ठीक है, ये भी संभालना है और ये भी संभालना है. So I think that I appreciate the pressures on parents, but I don't think आप अभी से ये कह सकते हैं कि जैसे pandemic में 1 साल ज़ाया हुआ, आप curriculum में 1 साल ज़ाया हो जाएगा. आप थोड़ा सा वक्त दें, हाँ, वो साल लगेगा आपको थोड़ा सा adjust करने में, but adjustment is towards the right direction. And I think that is the right way of looking at it.
Okay, so we have like 100 questions piled up. How much more time? I'll keep asking them as quickly as possible, and then you can tell me when you're exhausted. Okay, Mehwish Hai and Nida Bano Qureshi have a similar question. Mehwish's question is, it should be piloted first and then rolled out. Nida Bano Qureshi Shah's question is, why not test this curriculum out first before making it a national curriculum and experimenting with an entire generation?
So I think it's a good way to like clump thematic questions together so we can get the maximum number of people in. This curriculum was launched in 2006. It has been running since then. इस curriculum में updates की गई हैं. Updates primarily around making it more diverse, inclusive, and religiously inclusive also. ताकि it's not, the other day, a friend of mine was saying that she is Shia, and the textbooks that she studied from, even in at college level, at an elite university in Pakistan, were very discriminatory towards Shias and totally privileged a Sunni version of Islam. And she's worried that her 5-year-old is now going to get exposed to that kind of a thing. So I think that आपका ये जो है ना कि ये pilot नहीं हुआ, जो 2006 का curriculum था, अगर आप वो देखें तो वो inclusive था, लेकिन वो mostly एक पंजाब से लोगों ने बनाया था. उसमें आपको कोई diversity नहीं थी, religious diversity नहीं थी, non-Muslims की भी ज़्यादा नहीं थी, within Islam भी नहीं थी. तो ये जो आप pilot कर रहे हैं ना, that is a positive edit of adding more diversity and adding themes like digital citizenship and entrepreneurship, these themes that 15 years ago were not like our day-to-day concerns, certainly not the concerns of our kids who are now on smartphones all the time. So pilot in terms of के क्या आपको इस ग्रेड में टेबल्स पढ़ाने चाहिए या इस ग्रेड में पढ़ाने चाहिए, वो पार्ट इसका पायलट काफी अरसे से हो रहा है. बाकी जो इसका पार्ट नया है वो yes that is going to be experimented, और उस पे I think we should continue to get feedback.
Okay. So Alia Shivaz's question is, no, sorry, Fatma Jandat's question is, can you please tell us what about ancillary subjects such as robotics, STEAM, music, ICT, French? Will NOCs be required for this, or can a school choose to teach music, drama, ICT, etc. any way they want to?
देखें आप, like I said, any time your school tells you कि जी गवर्नमेंट ने मना कर दिया, आप उन्हें क्या हमें नोटिफिकेशन दिखाएं? कहाँ गवर्नमेंट ने कहा है? देखिए आप ये हाई फी प्राइवेट स्कूल्स तो बहुत थोड़े हैं, मदरसे वाले सड़कों पे निकल आए अगर ये गवर्नमेंट कह दे कि आप इस एसएनसी के अलावा बच्चों को कुरान नहीं हिफ्ज करा सकते, आप ये नहीं पढ़ा सकते, आप वो नहीं पढ़ा सकते. You are not alone. There are a lot of people in Pakistan who want to have elective subjects for their children, and because of that, it's very good that these are minimum standards, not maximum standards. So anybody who tells you कि आप robotics, languages, music, arts नहीं पढ़ा सकते is not talking with facts. Will an NOC be required? Yes, I think an NOC will be required. But as I said, even in the past, even when NOCs were not required, you could not teach in any country. You cannot teach what the state will not allow you to teach. So, and we are living examples of that. So I think there will be flexibility to teach lots of things, और उसके NOCs भी बन जाएंगे और पहले भी बनते आए हैं. So there is a lot of like scare tactic in here, but not much truth.
Okay. So we have an anonymous question. Dr. Mariam, I'm a huge fan of you, but not of this curriculum. I teach at an American school in Lahore, and my question is that my school has been talking about how they will no longer teach social studies or Pakistan studies, but will instead teach world history and world geography to sideline the SNC requirement of teaching Pakistan studies in Urdu, because we just don't have teachers who can teach Pakistan geography and Pakistani history in Urdu. Is that legally allowed, or is my school doing something wrong?
No, I think that, first of all, thank you for the compliment that you're a fan of me. I'm a fan of anyone who's a fan of me. The SNC does teach world history, by the way, and it does, teach all these concepts. And it allows you to teach more than that. आजकल 6th, 7th, 8th का मैं history curriculum के draft 1 पे और geography curriculum के draft 1 पे काम कर रही हूँ. I'm looking at the Massachusetts standards for, or there's a lot of world history in there that they cover, but, it allows you to teach whatever you want to teach. Now, the argument that if I am teaching the history of the world, it can be taught better because there's something inherently better about English rather than teaching it in German or Japanese or some other language. That's not correct. The constraint of teachers is fair. There are not enough teachers who can teach social studies as Masharti alone. But if a school is committed, if you pay a good salary, I can guarantee you very good quality bilingual teachers will show up, जो आपके बच्चों को समझा भी देंगी कि कॉन्सेप्ट क्या है और उनकी असेसमेंट भी कर लेंगी कि इनको कॉन्सेप्ट्स की समझ आई है कि नहीं. सब पढ़ाना है ना, उस किताब से पढ़ाना है. बच्चे जब तक 4th 5वीं तक पहुंचेंगे आहिस्ता आहिस्ता, और उसमें बाय द वे माशरती उलूम में, बिकॉज आई हैव माई सेल्फ रिव्यूड द मॉडल टेक्स्ट बुक, उसमें जो की टर्म्स हैं वो साथ में ब्रैकेट्स में इंग्लिश में भी दी हुई हैं. इट्स नॉट लाइक सम सलीस उर्दू के उसमें डिक्शनरी निकाल के आपको साथ साथ बच्चे को सीखना होगा. तो like I said, just wait for the truth prevails. So I think just wait, and there will be concerns, but उन concerns को based on your actual verified facts उस पर raise करें.
Okay. So we have a question from Sarah that if the aim was to improve our children's expertise of the Urdu language, which is an aim which I feel is noble and one I fully support, why did the government not simply introduce Urdu literature along with Urdu language as a subject? Or why not add Urdu poetry as a subject? Why mess with other subjects just to teach Urdu better?
नहीं, उर्दू के सब्जेक्ट में क्या होता है? लिटरेचर और पोएट्री होती है। उर्दू की किताब में क्या होता है? You know, there are poems and literature and essays and funny stories, you know, so you don't need a separate आप English और English poetry और English literature जाके FAFC लेवल पर जाके सब्जेक्ट अलग से बनता है। तो बच्चे तो वही पढ़ते हैं। So now the question of why are you converting other subjects into Urdu? This is a basic rule of learning a language, that the more immersed you are, the more content you consume in that language, the better you will be able to speak it. Luckily, if you speak one language, doesn't mean that the other language will go down. You can speak multiple languages just as well. You just need to spend the time and effort, and it actually helps with a lot of brain development as well.
Okay, so we have another question from Nadia Mutassim, which is, I think, a concern that a lot of parents have shown. So, and I think you're uniquely suited to answer this since you went to Harvard and you studied abroad. A lot of parents, including myself, are worried that, you know, if our children are going to be spending so much time and effort studying Urdu, when they apply to Harvard, for example, or Cornell, etc., wouldn't those universities only be interested in the English language acquisition of our children, firstly? Secondly, that in this transitional period, our children are bound to have not amazing grades in Islamiyat and social studies because the language would have changed. Wouldn't that affect their transcripts and hence affect their chances of getting into universities? Because according to Nadia, admissions throughout the world are based on marks and grades and transcripts.
Language of assessment is not a problem. It's not been decided. Even method of assessment has not been mandated. So if you want to assess your kid on their concepts of Islamiyat and whatever format, aapne unki assignment, 100% of their grade depends on assignments. Or if it's a take-home exam, open book exam, interview, there are 10,000 ways of doing an assessment. And this is a wrong belief that our education system, which is very restrictive, कि इम्तिहान ऐसे ही होता है और ऐसे होता है और assessment ऐसे ही होती है, that's why this assumption persists. So the question of कि बच्चे जो हैं उनके grades नीचे आ जाएंगे, अगर वो जाहिर है, अगर मुझे आप कहें कि अब आप कल Arabic में जाके एग्जाम दें या यही talk आप Arabic में conduct करें, तो I can't do it, right? But you are testing, you are talking to me for my ideas. You know, you want me to express my ideas. You are listening to me because of my ideas. I can express those ideas in a different language and you will still go away assessing me, yeah, her ideas made sense or not so much sense. Not that you're not taking a language exam of me. तो ये तो वो बात होगी. और दूसरा इस सवाल में एक और भी एलिमेंट था कि उसको रिपीट कर दें.
कि हमारे बच्चों की, यही सवाल किसी और ने भी पूछा हुआ है कि हमारे बच्चों की इंग्लिश एक्सपर्टीज इफेक्ट होगी
हार्वर्ड के बारे में,
या कि अगर वो 8 सब्जेक्ट इंग्लिश में पढ़ते हैं.
Harvard and Stanford reject 100% SATs all the time. They leave those for other schools. Harvard and Stanford assess and admit people based on how resilient you are, how worldly you are, and how complex of a thinker you are. If you want your kid to get into Harvard and Stanford, work on making them a more complex thinker and having them as multilingual, not even bilingual, multilingual, reading, writing, speaking in multiple languages, being able to consume literature, produce poetry in multiple languages, चाहे किस भी level की हो. That will make your kid more likely to get into Harvard rather than a perfect ability to speak English, but totally gibberish ideas. So again, I think it's very important to speak English, but that's not the only thing that gets you into Harvard.
Okay, okay, Hafsa's question is not linked to SNC, so I won't do it there. Okay, so we had another question, which was actually very interesting. And I think you've answered this, and I'll ask it because a lot of people are asking this, that when our children's Urdu ability increases, because they'll be studying 3 things in Urdu, Islamiyat, Urdu, and social studies. But on the other hand, wouldn't English abilities go down? Because if they were
No,
studying 7 subjects, now they're studying 4 in English.
no. If they were doing even 4 languages, it would take them longer, but they could still do it. Children are very good at picking up languages. आप अपने घर पे ऑब्जर्व करें, आप जिस बच्चे से इंग्लिश में बात करते हैं वो इंग्लिश सीख जाता है, जिससे आप उर्दू में बात करते हो एक ही घर में एक बच्चा बेहतर उर्दू बोलेगा, एक बेहतर अंग्रेजी बोलेगा. So kids can pick up multiple languages. We don't give kids enough credit. We look at ourselves and we think हमारे बच्चे भी उतना ही dumb है. But you need to give your kids more credit. Their minds are like sponges. आप उन्हें 1000 लफ्ज सिखा दें, वो 1000 सीख जाएंगे. तो ये लिमिटेशन आपकी सोच की है, उनके दिमाग की नहीं है.
Okay. So Gulmina's brought up a very interesting question about the teachers, and you have a minimum curriculum, a minimum standard of curriculum. Will you also have minimum standards for teachers? Because at this point, from what we know, there are no certifications for teachers that are uniform. So her question is that, Dr. Mariam, where are these teachers going to come from? And when teachers are the final executioners of any syllabus, why is there no discussion or very little discussion on the minimum standard of a teacher? Who is going to ensure that the teachers are trained, and who is going to help social studies teachers learn Urdu to the degree that they need to know to teach this?
देखिए, आप इस चीज पर सैलरी अगर बेस कर दें, आप कहें कि हम अपने स्कूल में वो टीचर हायर करेंगे जो बच्चे को ये कॉन्सेप्ट्स अच्छे सिखाएगा और उर्दू में सिखाएगा, और ये वाले कॉन्सेप्ट्स अच्छे सिखाएगा और इंग्लिश में सिखाएगा, और इसकी सैलरी और इसकी रेपुटेशन और रैंक स्कूल में ज्यादा होगी. आप देखें, टीचर्स आ जाएंगे. इट्स जस्ट लाइक दिस. MBBS डिग्री तो बड़े लोगों के पास है. आप किस डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं? आप इस पे नहीं देखते कि उसने कौन से मेडिकल कॉलेज से पढ़ा है, बाहर से पढ़ के आया कि नहीं आया. आप उसके पास जाते हैं जिसने आपका मसला हल किया है, या जिसके साथ आपने जब बात की है तो यू फेल्ट हर्ड, सो आप उस डॉक्टर के पास जाते हैं. आप उसकी कैपेबिलिटी की बेसिस पे उसके पास जाते हैं. आप सिस्टम का इंसेंटिव चेंज करें, रादर देन कि जो टीचर A लेवल में सबसे ज्यादा परसेंटेज मार्क्स या सबसे ज्यादा एज लेकर आती है उसको सबसे ज्यादा वैल्यू किया जाएगा. आप कंसेप्चुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग पर वैल्यू करना शुरू करें. आप लैंग्वेज ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन पे वैल्यू करना शुरू करें. आप देखें मार्केट कितनी जल्दी एडजस्ट करती है. कोई जरूरत नहीं है करंट टीचर्स को ट्रेनिंग करा के उनको पढ़ाने की कि अब आप उर्दू सीखें. कोई जरूरत नहीं. वो खुद ही दे विल एनरोल इन कोर्सेज बिकॉज दे विल नो कि द मार्केट राइट नाउ वैल्यूज दीज स्किल्स.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, the next question is from an educationist, and she's saying, hi, Dr. Mariam, thank you for all the work you're doing. My question is that I have heard that certain schools, especially the IB systems, are going to not implement the single national curriculum in true spirit because the IB system doesn't use textbooks. They mainly refer to online resources. And that to me seems unfair, because if the law is that every school should have the same curriculum, and so should IB. So is it true that there is no minimum standard on online resources? What if a school has no textbooks physically and is only working through online resources?
देखें, the government has just said the requirement is minimum standards. IB में कोई ना कोई तो standards है ना, चाहे वो online से पढ़ाते हैं या textbook से पढ़ाते हैं या बाहर जाके field materials से पढ़ाते हैं. वो कुछ ना कुछ तो concepts की list तो है ना कि हर बच्चे को age और grade के हिसाब से. गवर्नमेंट ने सिर्फ वो स्टैंडर्ड्स, मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड्स मैंडेट किए हैं. आप टेक्स्ट बुक से ना पढ़ाएं. गवर्नमेंट ने कोई टेक्स्ट बुक भी नहीं रिक्वायर की कि टेक्स्ट बुक भी होगी और ये वाली होगी. उन्होंने कहा है कि अगर टेक्स्ट बुक होगी तो उसका NOC होना चाहिए और उसमें ये कॉन्सेप्ट्स कवर होने चाहिए. तो IB तो ऑलरेडी इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग सिस्टम है कॉन्सेप्ट बेस्ड लर्निंग का, तो IB के लिए तो सबसे मिनिमम एडजस्टमेंट है इन माय ओपिनियन. बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट ने बिल्कुल मैंडेट नहीं किया कि क्लास में टीचर ने सफा नंबर खोल के सफा नंबर 25 पे पूरे पाकिस्तान के बच्चे उस दिन बैठे होंगे, जो कि इस तरह के एक्सपेरिमेंट्स दुनिया में हो चुके हैं. अमेरिका में भी हो चुके हैं एट स्कूल डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल्स, बिकॉज द पर्सन इन चार्ज थॉट कि मुझे पता होना चाहिए कि आज मेरी डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हर बच्चा ये टॉपिक पढ़ रहा है इस पेज पे, which is ridiculous. लेकिन ये नहीं हो रहा. So I think IB is actually in the safest space because it is already testing based on conceptual, assessing on conceptual understanding. As long as it does that, आप textbook ले लें, ना use करें, it's fine. ना लें बेशक, you know, I think it should be fine.
Okay, it's not mandated कि आपने किताब से पढ़ाना है.
नहीं, गवर्नमेंट ने करिकुलम मैंडेट किया है और मॉडल टेक्स्ट बुक बनाई है और कहा है अगर आप कोई किताब इस्तेमाल करेंगे तो उसका एनओसी होना चाहिए. तो अगर लेट्स से मैं घर पे बच्चे को होम स्कूल कर रही हूँ, राइट, मैं कोई बुक नहीं यूज करती, and I just go to the curriculum document and I teach my kid those concepts. I'm fine, I'm in compliance.
Okay, so Hina's question also, I think, voices the fears of a lot of moms. My question is, Hina Salmanka, what if this government implements this and our kids go through the whole process and the next government comes and changes us back or implements yet another curriculum? Is this not going to be disaster for our children? We adjust and then we go back and then we adjust.
Yeah, and I must say that I'm not affiliated with this government or any political party or something. My affiliation is with quality education. मेरी तरफ से जो मर्जी political party आए, जो मर्जी government हो, the only thing I am committed to is that quality standards should be maintained. इस वक्त minimum standards are good quality standards. अगर कोई government आके इससे भी बेहतर काम करती है, I will happily celebrate it. I will appreciate it publicly. लेकिन अगर वो यूं करते हैं कि ना चलो अगर आप हमारे बच्चों के लिए और मुश्किल कोई चीज कर रहे हैं लेकिन it's an improvement, तो I will take it. लेकिन अगर वो इसलिए कर रहे हैं just because to undo the previous governments, then we should all criticize it. And ऐसे होता रहा है. You know, if you look at it, the people in our families who grew up in the 60s and the 70s remember a very different Pakistan than the people who grew up in the 90s and the 80s and the 90s. We saw a very different Pakistan. तो ये क्या था? ये experiments ही है ना कि गवर्नमेंट ने अब बदल दिया और फिर अब जो बच्चे जो 2000s में post 9/11 grow up कर रहे हैं, उनकी टेक्स्ट बुक्स और भी डिफरेंट है. So ये experiments होते रहे हैं and it might happen, but if it does, we are in a different age now. We are more empowered, digitally empowered to raise our voice against it, and we will.
Yeah. And I think what goes in the favor of a single national curriculum is that, from my understanding, it has the backing of all the academic thinkers and movers and shakers in Pakistan. So it's going to be hard for the government, no?
Not all. There are lots of critics of it, academics who are critics of it, and that's a good thing. If everybody agrees with something, then we are doing something wrong. Most people are redundant. I think through criticism, better things come about. Yes, this is the first time that the government has brought in Khan University, faculty from LUMS and other universities. This is the first time that इतने सारे academics involved हैं. वो बात आपकी ठीक है. लेकिन ये नहीं है कि सब academics are in favor of it. Let's see. And I think criticism is a good thing. I think it helps us create better opportunities for our children.
Okay, we have a question from Javeria about, is it true that Sindh is refusing to accept the single national curriculum? This point was also raised in a session I did with an educationist, that 3 provinces have said yes, but Sindh is saying no. Is Sindh going to be teaching something different?
Sindh every province is completely within their right to say, this is a recommendation of the federal government. After the 18th Amendment, we will not adopt it, right? And that's fine. 3 provinces, because all provinces the federal government played a convening role, not here's a curriculum and now just implement it. Because every province was involved in making it, so they accepted it. Okay, we have gotten our voice in, we made this document together. So the Sindh government has resisted it, but they have resisted certain parts of it. For instance, they were saying कि हम इसमें मलाला यूसुफजई पढ़ाना चाहते हैं, इकबाल मसीह पढ़ाना चाहते हैं. So the federal minister said to them, आप बिल्कुल पढ़ाएं. These are minimum standards. These are not कि आप ये नहीं पढ़ा सकते. आपने important personalities पढ़ानी है बच्चे को. आप ईदी पढ़ाएं, या जो भी आप अपने को provincial leaders पढ़ाएं, आप पढ़ा सकते हैं. So there are discussions behind closed doors and there are discussions that are public. A lot of this is also political in my understanding because, you know, there's all different political parties also. But as far as I'm concerned, अगर सिंध या केपी for instance SNC को नहीं adopt करते, लेकिन अगर वो SNC के concepts पढ़ा रहे हैं अपने स्कूलों में in any case, तो बहुत अच्छी बात है. मेरा कंसर्न ये नहीं होना चाहिए हमारा कि जी SNC implement हो. You know, the concern should be, are the most number of kids in our country, irrespective of which province they belong to, learning or not?
Okay. Okay, but wouldn't that lead to further chaos if one province is not choosing it or not implement? I mean, children also move between provinces, right? Like किसी को पंजाब
Yes.
से father got a job in Sindh, तो एक curriculum में फर्क होना या would
Yeah,
that not?
ये होगा. For instance, अब जैसे सिंध में for instance जो public schools हैं, अगर वो ऐसे standards use कर रहे हैं, high fee private schools are fine, वो तो अच्छी quality की education दे रहे हैं. अगर सिंध में कोई पब्लिक स्कूल्स हैं जो सोचते हैं कि जो बाकी पूरा मुल्क क्लास 4 में साइंस के कॉन्सेप्ट सिखा रहा है, हम वो क्लास 5 में सिखाएंगे, तो उनके बच्चे पीछे रह जाएंगे. तो उनका बच्चा अगर क्लास 4 में ही किसी डिफरेंट प्रोविंस में शिफ्ट होता है, तो उसके लिए वो अभी क्लास 3 का कॉन्सेप्ट पढ़ रहा होगा. तो बट ये रिवर्स भी हो सकता है कि हो सकता है सिंध में उन्होंने स्टैंडर्ड इससे भी बेहतर रखा हो और वो अगर दूसरी प्रोविंस में जाए. तो ये लाइक आई सेड, इट्स नॉट अबाउट कि एसएनसी सारी मुल्क में इस्तेमाल हो रहा है कि नहीं. अगर आपके सारे बच्चे अच्छा पढ़ रहे हैं तो आप प्रोविंशियल लेवल पे जिस तरह मर्जी इंप्लीमेंट करें. बट इट वुड बी नाइस कि अगर अक्रॉस प्रोविंसेस अगर मोबिलिटी हो तो बच्चों के स्टैंडर्ड्स, कॉमन कोर इज अ वेरी well accepted standard in the West and in developed countries in the East also. So it would be good if people were able to move across the country for job opportunities and not be penalized for coming from a different system.
Yeah. Okay. So Mehreen Tahir's question is that the NOC price has been raised from 2,000 to 400,000. What is your opinion on this? And will this not raise the prices of books, which will eventually affect the parents?
Yeah, so I would like to see a notification on that. You will not find a notification on that. It's just made up. And if it is the price of the book, ये तो बहुत peanuts है for the amount of money that publishers make from textbooks. आप लोग जानते हैं, आप पेरेंट्स हैं, एक एक सब्जेक्ट की कितनी कितनी 8-8 किताबें होती हैं बच्चे को. प्राइवेट स्कूल्स के बैक एंड डील्स होती हैं प्राइवेट पब्लिशर्स के साथ कि इतने बच्चे मैं स्कूल में लूंगा, इतने किताबों के सेट तो आपसे वो बच्चे खरीदेंगे. अब गवर्नमेंट ने जब ला के एसएनसी बना दिया है, वो एनओसी देगी लेकिन कम किताबों को देगी, तो कितने सारे प्राइवेट बिजनेसेस जो एजुकेशन नहीं बिजनेस चला रहे थे, उनका बिजनेस ठप हो गया है. Of course, I'm never in favor of people losing jobs. They will reinvent themselves. वो printing में चले जाएंगे. But असल behind the scenes politics is also this. कि where will all that revenue go, which was coming? And you know, parents will now have the choice कि अगर textbooks यही हैं 5-6, तो मैं ये 10,000 एक्स्ट्रा स्कूल में क्यों दे रही हूँ, जहां पर वो जी वो तो उस पब्लिशर की या फलां यूज करते हैं, जब पढ़ा वो ही कुछ रहे हैं. So there's a whole systemic shift. This is the politics of education. It's a very structural shift that's happening. And as part of that, these things like, 4 lakh rupees NOC, there's no such notification.
Yeah. Okay. Should we just ask you the last two?
Yes, I think so. I was hoping to be done by 10, but I think we can do by 10:15.
Okay. So Nadia's question is that why has feedback from parents not been taken into account? Like the government convened a huge body of educationists and principals and teachers, but the parents kind of feel not exploited, but like at the wrong end of the bargain. Nobody asked us. We were just told, this is it, accept it.
I think that's a fair critique. I think जो primary grades का जब काम हो रहा था, तो उसी level पर, इससे पहले SNC से पहले SNC का काम फरवरी में हो गया था, उसके बाद पेंडेमिक आया, और उसके बाद जून जुलाई में जाके after that first debate, you know, it exploded and everybody was sitting at home because of the lockdown, everybody watched it, and suddenly everybody started to care about education and everybody started to have an opinion, which is a very, very positive thing. इससे पहले February में the government had done an unprecedented level of stakeholder engagement. 400 people across, you know, 4 provinces, Gilgit, Baltistan and Azad Kashmir, right? अब उन्होंने जब देखा कि अगर इतना इंटरेस्ट है, तो for grades 6 to 8 you can go to the SNC website, और मैं वेबसाइट इसके कमेंट्स में भी डाल दूंगी. You can go to the website, download the curriculum for 6 to 8, parent, teacher, no matter what your affiliation, आप उस पे उस email address पे उस परफॉर्मा में डाल के अपना feedback भेज सकते हैं. So this is an insane level of stakeholder engagement that I have never seen. कि गवर्नमेंट ने ड्राफ्ट अपना SNC जो है वो इंटरनेट पे डाल दिया, बट द डिजिटल एज enables this. You are right कि प्राइमरी ग्रेड्स में उन्हें एंगेज करना चाहिए था. To their credit, they were still doing stakeholder engagement beyond anything before. But also to their credit, when they saw that parents were interested in having their voice heard for this particular issue, they have made that adjustment. Deadlines उन्होंने आगे कर दी हैं. So please go ahead and I will put it in the Facebook Live में आपके comments में I will put down the link for where you can go.
Okay, last question from Fahmi Hassan, that since we are an Islamic country and one of our main jobs as Muslim moms is to teach our children better Islam, was there any discussion of considering Arabic as a compulsory language? Is that a step that the government might be taking? And that's it. The next part, I think you've answered. The national curriculum is for Urdu, Pak studies, and Islamic studies only, or for maths and science. So Mariam's answered that. It's for all the basic core subjects that you have to study.
Yeah, so Urdu will be in the subject Urdu, Islamiyat, and general knowledge. General knowledge एक umbrella subject है grades 1 से 3 तक का, जिसके अंदर social studies और science के कुछ concepts होते हैं बच्चों के लिए, civics और इस तरह. और grades 4 to 5 में Urdu and Islamiyat and social studies. ये चीजें उर्दू में. English में बाकी half subject. English का subject, the subject of science and the subject of mathematics from grades 1 to 5. ये English में है. Now the other question of Islamiyat, was it brought up in deliberations कि Arabic को बना दें? I don't know. I even if I was part of the government, I'm not witness to every single idea that is thrown. I'm sure somebody thought कि ये बात भी consider होनी चाहिए. Is it happening? There is no notification and I have not heard anything like that. कि Arabic को compulsory बनाया जाए सबके लिए. लेकिन ये है कि अगर आप Arabic पढ़ाना चाहते हैं तो उस पे कोई बंदिश नहीं है. आप पढ़ा सकते हैं. आप अपने स्कूल को कहें वो पढ़ाएं. Just like आप कोई और भी foreign language पढ़ाना चाहते हैं, आप पढ़ा सकते हैं.
Okay, makes sense. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mariam. This was an amazing session. We have many more questions to answer, but that is why I would urge, the mothers that get scary on me, we constantly keep doing these sessions. But like Mariam's saying, the document is public. So, a lot of you, if you go and read the document, I know it's very, very long. I've only gone through the first 40 pages. It's 160 pages. Like, it's really long.
नहीं, you can skip the जो शुरू में है ना, जो theoretical part है, just go to the learning outcomes. Table of contents में देखें, जहाँ पर है progression grade है कि हर grade में क्या है और student learning outcomes. Just go to those pages. और वो बहुत extensive नहीं है. Those are like 20 to 30 pages per subject. You can skim through them also.
Okay. But the great thing is that it is there. So you don't have to wait till August and be worried. God knows what's going to happen. Even if the textbooks aren't there, the curriculum is there. And it is a great thing that the government wants your opinion. So please go and give your opinion from grade 6 to 8. And do you know when the curriculum for 8 and above will come, or there's no discussion on that?
Same time. So अभी ये cycle में चल रहा है. So primary grades was finalized around March. फिर पेंडेमिक आ गया तो अनाउंस जाके 14 अगस्त पे हुआ था, वरना 23 मार्च को होना था. लेकिन ये वाला करिकुलम 6 to 8 वाला मार्च में होना था, बट बिकॉज सो मच इंटरेस्ट उन्होंने आगे कर दिए. सो फर्स्ट हाफ ऑफ दिस ईयर में 6 to 8 अनाउंस हो जाएगा, और फिर अगले साल around the same time 9th to 12th अनाउंस हो जाएगा. By the way, just because it's being announced, it just means कि यहाँ से आप स्टार्ट करें, आगे पूरा साल आप पढ़ाएंगे, उसके बाद एक साल बाद उस पर आप उसका इम्तिहान लेंगे, जिस तरह से भी इम्तिहान लेंगे. सो ये कहना कि ये जी अगस्त में एसएनसी इम्प्लीमेंट हो रहा है, डजंट मीन कि अगस्त में वो किताब पहली दफा देखेंगे और अगले दिन सुबह उस पे इम्तिहान है. बीच में एक साल का वक्त भी है.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you so much. This was amazing. And it's truly remarkable that you take out time from your schedule to address the concerns of mothers, because often mothers feel like the most left out, from every.
Mothers are very important. Stay scary, as I said. And, thank you so much for inviting me. And I will post the link in the chat box then.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hafiz.